everyone. Welcome to another segment of Latin Connection TV. We are here live at the San Antonio Hispanic Journalist Gala that is honoring none other than John Quiñones. Bienvenido, John.
Gracias. It's great to be here. I'm getting the Lifetime Achievement Award. I'm too young for that.
You took my line. I was going to say espérame. They calculated wrong. You're supposed to get that when you're like in your 80s, and you're barely in your 45, 50. Come on.
7.
So anyhow, I know it's also a special welcome from John because, John, tell the viewers where you're from.
I'm from San Antonio. I was born and raised just a few miles from here. I used to shine shoes on Guadalupe Street and on the San Antonio River. I went to Carvajal Elementary, Rhodes Junior High, Brackenridge, St. Mary's. So I'm a product of this town.
You are, and it's so lovely and so wonderful. You're also an example of giving back because you over and over come back and take any opportunity. And wow, what a wonderful opportunity to be here. And my question for you is, you know, you're getting this award tonight, so well deserved, like so many other accolades that you've already received. Now, does it ever get old to get another accolade?
Well,
but rather yet, is it like, you know that Sade song? I'm like dating myself with that. Remember that Sade song, Never as Good as the First Time? Is it really never as good as the first time for an award?
This one is really special because it comes from my colleagues in my hometown. These are people who have known me for years. These are people I respect. I've won like 7 National Emmy Awards. This one ranks right up there with them because it comes from San Antonio. It comes from the people who know me better than anyone. And it's a special award because I remember when I was a little boy growing up here, shining shoes on Guadalupe Street, and my dad was a janitor, and it looked like I'd never make it in television. And now here I come, and I'm getting this huge award. It's a reminder that how life can turn out, and how if you believe in yourself and you work hard and you persevere, dreams, they come true.
I was just going to say that you're that example of what working hard, and one of my favorite sayings, John, is persistence beats resistance.
I love that.
And you're an example of that. And so I was about to ask you, you know, what would you do, John? And so we're all about to find out, what is John going to do when he receives that Lifetime Achievement Award? You stay tuned and you'll find out in just a few moments. Muchísimas gracias, John.
Gracias.
Muchas bendiciones.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. This means from my own colleagues in my hometown. How better can it get? Thank you to the San Antonio Association of Hispanic Journalists. Thank you, Irma, my sister, and John Anthony, my nephew, my family, and all my friends who are here tonight celebrating with me this very special occasion. I feel so blessed and I feel so humbled. I was a kid who couldn't speak English when I was 6 years old. I grew up just a few miles from here on the west side of San Antonio in Henry's old neighborhood. And let me tell you something about the Hispanic Journalists Association. When I was hired, you know, Jim talks about how there was only room for 1 Latino. Well, we've got the quota, we're okay, we don't need to hire you. When we were here, the reason I was a drugstore delivery man at Blanco Pharmacies. Driving an old beat up, I have to be careful how I say when I tell people, I used to deliver drugs. They presume the worst, of course. Well, of course, Mexican. No. I delivered drugs to little old ladies who needed medicine in an old beat up Volkswagen. And the owner of that drugstore, Richard Teniente, remember Richard Teniente? Yeah. Wonderful man. He would hear me reading in the bathroom, working on any copy that I could get my hands on to overcome my accent. So he knew that I wanted to get into broadcasting. But there were no positions in radio or television until there was a group of radical Mexicans who came on board, calling themselves the Bilingual Bicultural Coalition on the Mass Media, or the BBC. And the BBC was this bunch of Chicanos with brown berets who would go to radio and TV stations in San Antonio and picket outside their gates and contest their licenses with the FCC, which governs the airwaves. By the way, the airwaves belong to the people, not to any private company. And these guys would say, if you don't hire a force that's representative of the beautiful population of San Antonio, we're going to demand that the FCC doesn't renew your licenses. And these stations freaked out because they didn't want to lose their licenses. And they started hiring anybody with a decent voice. And there was little Juanito Quiñones at the drugstore reading in the bathroom. And I was hired at KKYX as a reporter. But it was KKYX. I was an intern for $2 an hour. Guess what I did? If you're from Texas, you understand this. The disc jockeys at that radio station had horses at the back of the studios that they would use in parades and rodeos. My job as an intern for $2 an hour was to feed the horses at the back of the studio. But slowly they let me do something on the air. The first thing I did, I remember I got to read the tag on a national commercial. And there was some new medicine that was out. And at the end, I got to say this for the first time on broadcast radio. My first words were, now available at Walgreens. And I was so proud, I was so proud. I would call my tias and my tios, you gotta listen at 112, listen to Then they let me do the news. Sunday nights, it was really Monday morning, from 2 to 4 in the morning. We had 4 listeners, my 2 sisters, my mother, and my father. You know, the woman in that video, in that What Would You Do video, told us, fear can keep you from doing a lot of things, but it should never keep you from doing the right thing. She was talking about fighting racism, but it applies to so many aspects of our lives. As you know, I was born in the barrio, raised a couple of miles from here, in a world where fear dominated so much of our lives. Fear of gang violence, fear of drive-by shootings, fear of the drugs that were being peddled on the streets. I had 3 cousins who were heroin addicts and spent most of their lives in prison. But even greater than the fear on the streets back then was really more defeating than that fear was the fear of not making it in America. My father was a janitor. My mother used to clean houses on the rich part of town in Alamo Heights. I know because we would go and help them. To help the family out, I also shined shoes on Guadalupe Street. We would charge 10 cents for a pair of shoes. And I remember we'd go to the cantinas because all the drunk guys wouldn't know how much they were tipping you. And when I was 13, we did what a lot of Latino families in South Texas did. We joined a caravan of migrant farm workers. And we boarded these trucks and we traveled 1,600 miles to Michigan to pick cherries. And then we followed the crops down to Ohio to pick tomatoes. And I'll never forget being on my knees on the cold, hard ground at 6 in the morning, looking at a row of tomato plants that for a young 13-year-old boy's eyes seemed like they went on for miles and miles. And my father, Bruno, our father, Bruno, looking down at me and saying, do you want to do this for the rest of your life? Or do you want to go to college? It was a no-brainer. Of course, I was a dreamer. I always wanted to be a reporter. As a little boy, I was very chismoso, So I used to watch Geraldo Rivera on 2020. I wanted to be like Geraldo Rivera, this cool Latino. And but there were very few people who looked like me on television. But that didn't matter because the Quiñones family, we had a secret weapon. We had a mother, our dear mother Maria, who was a dynamo, a woman who instilled in us the all-important and life-changing mantra that anything is possible. It doesn't matter, she would tell us, that you have to wear the same clothes to school every other day. They're clean. It doesn't matter that you have to eat and take to school bean and tortilla tacos instead of the other fancy kids with their fancy bologna and white bread. It doesn't matter. She would say, what matters is what's in here. And it's what's in here in your corazón. You are just as good, she kept reminding us, as the kids who live on the north side of the tracks. And that's all we wanted to hear. That's all we needed to hear. And it's what so many young people today today still yearn to hear, particularly kids of color. So I leave you tonight with a very, very simple message. Don't ever miss the opportunity to inspire the young. Remind them that they must ignore the negative messages that society too often throws at us, particularly the kids who are of different skin colors, the color based on the color of their skin. So remember, please inspire them and teach them to fight that fear. Thank you very much. Muchísimas gracias. Con todo el corazón, ¿eh? Gracias. Thank you very much. Besos y abrazos. Gracias.